Hello, everyone. In the heart of New York, there was a family that spent their lives protecting the city, yet could not protect themselves from the losses fate had waiting for them. Blue Bloods became one of television's rare symbols where justice, family, and tragedy lived side by side. After hundreds of cases and countless battles, what remained were not just victories, but the scars time left behind. And now, looking back at the cast then and now, so much has changed forever. Frank Reagan, portrayed by Tom Selleck at the age of 65, entered Blue Bloods as the living foundation of law enforcement, a father, a leader, and the soul of the Reagan family. Frank was more than the New York police commissioner. He carried the weight of a legacy built across generations. His eldest son, Danny, was a reckless detective constantly chasing danger. His daughter, Erin, a sharp prosecutor, often challenging his beliefs. And his youngest son, Jamie, a man of principle, slowly worn down by the realities of the job. Through all of it, Frank stood at the center, holding the family together while carrying burdens no one else could fully understand. Tom Selleck was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan, and has now reached the age of 81. Long before becoming one of America's most recognizable television icons, he endured years of struggle through small roles, commercials, and repeated rejection, often told his classic look did not fit modern Hollywood. That perseverance eventually shaped one of the most enduring careers in television history. Off-screen, Selleck has always lived a private life, with a love for horseback riding, caring for his avocado ranch in California, and spending most of his time with family. Henry Reagan, portrayed by Len Cariou at the age of 71, brought into Blue Bloods the presence of a man who had lived through nearly every brutal chapter in the history of the New York Police Department. Henry no longer carried a gun or commanded operations, but he remained the moral foundation of the Reagan family, the father of Frank and the grandfather of Danny, Erin, and Jamie. If Frank represented the present, Henry was the living past. He came from an era when police work depended more on instinct than technology, when one wrong decision could cost a partner's life. That wisdom gave him a quiet authority no one in the family could ignore. Len Cariou was born on September 30, 1939 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and is now 87 years old. Before entering the world of long-running television, he had already built a legendary career on Broadway, winning a Tony Award for Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and earning a reputation as one of the finest stage actors of his generation. Off-screen, Cariou has always been drawn to classic literature, enjoys playing piano, and still spends much of his time reading scripts, a habit that has stayed with him throughout his life. Danny Reagan, portrayed by Donnie Wahlberg at the age of 41, brought fierce energy, instability, and deep emotional scars into Blue Bloods. Danny was Frank's oldest son, a veteran detective who had served in Iraq and carried wounds from war that never fully healed. Unlike his father, Danny never believed everything could be solved through rules and procedure. He trusted instinct, speed, and sometimes force. That made him one of the most effective investigators in the family, but also the most volatile. His methods often clashed with Erin in legal battles, worried Jamie, and forced Frank to pull him back whenever he drifted too close to crossing the line. Donnie Wahlberg was born on August 17, 1969, in Boston, Massachusetts, and is now 57 years old in 2026. Long before Blue Bloods, he rose to fame as a member of New Kids on the Block, becoming one of the biggest teen idols of his era. But early fame also brought years of chaos, pressure, public scrutiny, and career setbacks during the early 2000s. Over time, Wahlberg rebuilt his career through acting and found lasting success on television. Outside the spotlight, he remains passionate about music, collects vintage memorabilia, and stays deeply involved in charity work. Erin Reagan Boyle, portrayed by Bridget Moynihan at the age of 39, became one of the most layered and emotionally complex figures in Blue Bloods. Erin was the only member of the Reagan family constantly standing between the law and blood ties. As an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, she was forced to see every case through legal truth rather than emotion. That often put her in direct conflict with Danny, whose instinct for justice rarely waited for procedure. As a single mother raising Nikki, Erin carried the constant weight of balancing career, family, and the lingering strain of her past marriage. Her strength was never loud, but it was relentless, making her one of the family's strongest pillars. Bridget Moynihan was born on April 28, 1971, in Binghamton, New York, and is now 55 years old. Before becoming a familiar television presence, she built her career through film and modeling, earning recognition for her poise and emotional depth on screen. In many ways, Erin reflected parts of Moynihan's own life: resilient, independent, and carrying burdens without breaking. Beyond acting, she has written books, developed a passion for cooking, and often spends her time focused on family and a quieter life away from Hollywood. Jamie Reagan, portrayed by Will Estes at the age of 32, represented the youngest idealism within the Reagan family in Blue Bloods. Jamie was the youngest son, a Harvard law graduate who gave up the path of becoming a lawyer to join the police force and continue the family tradition. He entered the job with absolute faith in justice, believing the badge stood for truth above all else. But over time, Jamie discovered corruption, betrayal, and hidden agendas within the very system he had sworn to serve. That journey transformed him from the family's purest believer into one of its most tested survivors. His struggle was never about strength, but about holding on to principle when the world kept trying to break it. Will Estes was born on October 21, 1978, in Los Angeles, California, and is now 48 years old. He began acting at a very young age, building his career through teenage roles on television and gaining early recognition in American Dreams. But it took many years before he found the role that truly defined his career. Outside of acting, Estes has long been drawn to meditation, philosophy, and spending time outdoors, living a life far quieter than the intense world he portrays on screen. Linda Reagan, portrayed by Amy Carlson at the age of 42, became the gentle heartbeat inside the storm of the Reagan family in Blue Bloods. Linda did not wear a police badge or stand inside courtrooms, but she was the emotional anchor for Danny Reagan, the man whose soul had been worn down by war and years of violence on the job. As a hospital nurse, Linda witnessed the other side of justice: blood-covered bodies, shattered families, and victims Danny fought to save but sometimes reached too late. That gave her a perspective no one else in the family carried. She understood that behind every case was human pain, and that made her one of the quietest but strongest presences in the story. Amy Carlson was born on July 7, 1968, in Glen Ellen, Illinois, and is now 58 years old. Before stepping into the role of Linda, she built a long and steady career in daytime television and drama series, earning recognition in Third Watch and Law & Order. Trial by jury. Off-screen, Carlson has always kept a relatively quiet life, with a love for music, writing, and family. She remains the kind of performer whose work often leaves an emotional space behind long after the screen fades to black. Maria Baez, portrayed by Marisa Ramirez at the age of 33, brought a fresh and steady energy into the chaotic world of Donnie Wahlberg's Danny Reagan in Blue Bloods. Baez was far more than a longtime partner. She became one of the very few people strong enough to stand beside Danny without being consumed by his anger or reckless instincts. As a sharp detective, Maria knew how to read a crime scene, break down criminal behavior, and keep her emotions under control in moments when Danny often let his take over. That balance made her one of the most important stabilizing forces in his life, both professionally and personally. Marisa Ramirez was born on September 15, 1977, in Los Angeles, California, and is now 49 years old. Her path in Hollywood was not always steady. At different points, she struggled to balance single motherhood with the demands of acting, and there were moments when financial pressure nearly pushed her away from the industry altogether. But her resilience kept her moving forward. Outside the spotlight, Ramirez enjoys yoga, spending time with her daughter, and staying involved in charitable work, living a life grounded far from the intensity of television drama. Eddie Janko, portrayed by Vanessa Ray at the age of 29, brought the image of a young police officer full of courage, energy, and independence into Blue Bloods. As Jamie Reagan's patrol partner, Eddie became part of his world through endless emergency calls, dangerous streets, and moments where trust meant survival. Over time, their bond slowly grew into something deeper. But Eddie was never simply written as Jamie's love interest. She stood on her own with a strong personality, sharp instincts, and the confidence to challenge authority when she believed it was necessary. Coming from a fractured family, with a father who had been in legal trouble, Eddie carried a constant fear that her past might one day destroy the future she was trying to build. Vanessa Ray was born on June 24, 1981, in Livermore, California, and is now 45 years old. Her rise in television brought recognition, but it also came with its own cost. For a time, she struggled against being typecast in darker, more antagonistic roles, which made it difficult to reshape her career. She also faced periods of stress-related exhaustion from the demands of an intense filming schedule. Away from the spotlight, Ray enjoys singing, photography, and spending quiet time with her husband and pets, far removed from the high-pressure world of television drama. Abigail Baker, portrayed by Abigail Hawke at the age of 25, turned what could have been a simple administrative role into one of the quietest positions of power in Blue Bloods. As Frank Reagan's right hand, Baker managed schedules, information flow, internal crises, and often became the one person willing to speak honestly to him when no one else would. In a world where authority usually came with a badge or a gun, Baker built her influence through intelligence, instinct, and unwavering loyalty. She knew the department's deepest secrets, witnessed Frank's hardest decisions, and helped keep the entire system running without ever needing the spotlight. Her strength was never loud, but it was always there. Abigail Hawke was born on April 18, 1985, in Chicago, Illinois, and is now 41 years old. Before landing the role that would define much of her career, her journey in Hollywood moved slowly, with years spent taking small parts and brief television appearances that rarely brought much attention. That persistence eventually paid off. Off-screen, Hawke has long been passionate about literature, theater, and community work, building a life grounded in creativity and service far beyond the camera. Garrett Moore, portrayed by Gregory J. Barra at the age of 49, brought to Blue Bloods the image of a man who did not carry a gun, yet fought on a battlefield just as dangerous, the battlefield of public perception. As Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, Garrett stood beside Frank Reagan through political scandals, internal crises, and media storms that could destroy a police commissioner's career with a single headline. If Frank fought crime and Henry preserved tradition, Garrett was the man protecting the institution itself from public collapse. Sharp, strategic, and often brutally honest, he understood that in modern policing, controlling the narrative could be just as important as solving the case. Gregory Barra was born on September 28, 1961, in Westland, Michigan, and is now 65 years old. Long before television audiences knew him, J. Barra had already built a respected name on Broadway, most notably winning a Tony Award for his performance in Tony Awards winning Billy Elliot, the musical. Outside of acting, he enjoys teaching performance, reading history, and staying involved in community theater, carrying the same quiet discipline off-screen that made Garrett Moore such a steady presence on it. Nikki Reagan Boyle, portrayed by Sammy Gale at the age of 14, represented the youngest generation of the Reagan family in Blue Bloods. As Aaron Reagan's daughter, Nikki grew up surrounded by endless conversations about law, justice, and responsibility. She was never just a child standing on the outside of those discussions. Over time, she became a reflection of how the family itself changed through the years. What began as an innocent and curious young girl slowly evolved into a thoughtful young woman, willing to question the very system her family had dedicated their lives to protecting. That evolution gave Nikki a unique place in the story, showing how each generation sees justice differently. Sammy Gale was born on January 22, 1996, in Weston, Florida, and is now 30 years old. Starting her career in theater and television at a young age, she quickly drew attention for an emotional maturity far beyond her years. Outside of acting, Gale has a strong love for reading, playing chess, and supporting education. For many longtime viewers, she remains the little girl who grew up right alongside those unforgettable Reagan family dinners, becoming part of the show's lasting emotional memory. Anthony Abetamarco, portrayed by Steve Schirripa at the age of 53, brought a completely different kind of energy into Blue Bloods. Rough-edged, funny, but fiercely loyal. As the lead investigator for Aaron Reagan's district attorney's office, Anthony was the man willing to step into the city's darkest corners to chase evidence, track witnesses, and handle the messiest parts of justice. Unlike Aaron, who fought through the law, or Danny, who relied on police instinct, Anthony understood the streets. He knew how the underground world worked, how criminals thought, and when pressure had to be applied. That street-smart toughness made him one of Aaron's most trusted allies and one of the show's most grounded, human presences. Steve Schirripa was born on September 3, 1957, in Brooklyn, New York, and is now 69 years old. Long before many audiences recognized him from television, Schirripa had built a reputation playing larger-than-life, blue-collar characters with unusual warmth beneath the surface. Fame also came with personal challenges. He faced serious struggles with weight, high blood pressure, and heart-related health risks, eventually transforming his lifestyle and returning stronger. Outside acting, Schirripa enjoys writing books, hosting podcasts, and diving deep into the history of American organized crime, a subject that has fascinated him for years. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this journey. Time may fade, and memories may grow older, but true legends never really disappear. They remain with us, living quietly in the stories, the faces, and the moments we carry forward. Until next time, we'll meet again in another story worth remembering.